Whoa, shit! Welcome to the Metal Robot Reviews channel. I'm your host, Tom McKay. Happy New Year, you crazy motherfuckers. Holy shit, this year was a good year for metal. I'm not even going to comment on the retarded Cheeto in the White House or the white Shrek impersonator in Hollywood. Let's just focus on the music that came out this year because, wow, was this year such a banger. 10 albums, 1 EP, and that doesn't even count for a fraction of the amazing music that came out this year. Now, although there were a couple of missteps this year, let's leave that for the other list, and let's focus on the good stuff. This is the top 10 best albums of 2017. The question of where is blank album? Either it's not here, I didn't hear it, or check the other list. Now that we got that out of the way, I want to do another round of the People versus MRR, a segment of the show where I take an album that you guys might really like, but I don't really get the hype around it. This year's contender, Thy Art Is Murder's Dear Desolation. You know, I've noticed the picks for this part tend to piss a lot of people off. Well, let's keep tradition going. So, let me clear up the smoke real quick. I didn't hate this album, but I don't think it was a big return for the band. When CJ McMahon returned to the band, it was a huge deal for the deathcore community, and rightfully so. His voice is enough to make a woman give birth when she's not even pregnant. And nothing against the band either, they're performing their instruments the way we'd expect from a Thy Art Is Murder album, with ferocious chugs and earth-shattering percussion. But that's my point. This is pretty much the exact same album that Tayam have been putting out since The Adversary dropped back in 2010. It's a good formula, don't get me wrong, but it's the same formula for this band, and for deathcore in general. And look, I know that deathcore trying to branch out hasn't done so good, period, and believe me, that's its own thing. But that doesn't excuse doing the same thing over and over again. But still, I would have hoped that CJ returning to the band would have shaken things up a little bit and be able to give us more. We should expect more from the bands that we love, and in this case, it's no exception. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just nitpicking. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. But with that said, let's get into the list proper. Number 10, Nothing More's The Stories We Tell Ourselves. Admittedly, I may have been a little too nice to the amount of interludes on this album in my original review card, but that doesn't change how great this album really is. Where do I even begin with how great this album is? The instruments are played with precise skill and talent as well as style. That's one of the many things that puts this album on the list for me. The pure sense of style that this quintet possesses is more than enough, and yet they push the limits of that in this album. And the vocals are great as well, even if I keep thinking this dude sang from Mariana's Trench. Now, if you saw my original review, you might question why this album's so low on the list. After all, my review, I went gaga over this thing. I had nothing but love for this album. Well, it's because this is a metal site. And even though this band technically classifies as alternative metal as well as hard rock, I know my direct audience is purely metalhead. And frankly, this album isn't much in the way of a pure headbanger. It's still heavy as hell, don't get me wrong, but maybe not every metalhead will want to sink their teeth into this thing. But with that said, this album is amazing regardless. Even if you're a metalhead, check this album out. Your horns will be in the air the entire fucking time. But now, let's move on to number 9, Stone Sour's Hydrograd. I'm such a cop-out, I know, I'm sorry, but it's true. Corey Taylor more or less sells his band on its own. I mean, just look at the dude's face. Just look at it. Come on, who wouldn't want to see what this dude has in store? This album is a nice change of pace from the brooding House of Golden Bones double album that came out a few years back. Or as I like to call it, the Batman soundtrack of maximum brood. This album for sure isn't the brute-centric feeling that we had before. This album is a lot more lighthearted than its predecessor, but that doesn't change the fact that this is such a banger for so many reasons. I personally like this direction, and while again it's not the dark tone that we had before, which was a dark one, which also showed in its music, not feeling like I killed a puppy afterwards was a nice change of pace. So good on you guys. Corey Taylor, you never cease to amaze me. And okay, I'm a little excited for this one. Number 8, Pure Maze's Contingent. Was we thought and lived as one. I'm in such a good mood now. Hit it! 20 seconds of Pure Maze is one of my favorites. I've been on board with these guys since I've heard Legend of the Bone Carver back in 2012, and at that point I was and even though Lance King is my Pure Maze till the end, Terje Hayroy is doing a good job of convincing me that he's better than Lance King. Though I will always have my favorites, and you can't make me forget that. But the Contingent is keeping the dream alive. With Legend, the album had the feeling of a medieval fantasy world that was taken over by evil. And on this album, they prove that they have the ability to create atmosphere for their worlds and still be a pure headbanger. As on this album, I made no mistake in picturing this dystopian future while listening to this album. These guys are pros at world building with their albums, and these guys never cease to amaze me, even though they may have lost a few members along the way. Seriously, Prog maybe didn't get Dream Theater this year, or Periphery for some reason. Seriously, I thought these guys were on a release every year no matter what streak. But they thankfully got the amazingness of this Danish power metal group. And I could not be more excited for what they have in store for the future. The dystopian future. So just hit again! 20 seconds well, let's see what else we got here. How about we take a look at a different direction than what I would have done last year, and let's include some avant-garde black metal. Number 7, Mirker's Mahrid. 2 albums in a row. 2 albums in a row. 2 albums in a row. How is it possible for one fucking person to be this talented? If you have the answer to that question at all, keep it to yourself and start a one-person band, because you clearly have the talent for this kind of thing. Just like this black metal outfit. This album, from the title track onward, never disappoints, and when this woman gets fierce and ferocious on the traditional black metal songs, holy shit, she excels disbelief. Excellent guitar work, excellent drum work, excellent vocal work, and every other aspect of traditional Norse music. I'm in love with this album. Can we get an award set up for most geniusly crafted metal music, aside from the Grammys? Because that kind of award would totally go to Mirker, and if not, then no one else will be able to earn it. Number 6, Mastodon's Emperor of Sand. Mastodon has done it again this year. I don't know how you guys can keep being this good, but my god, never stop. Emperor of Sand, an album about death, is an interesting case on its own, as this album is a bit different from what they would usually put out, as this album is darker in tone compared to what they would usually put out. But it works in their favor, as Mastodon brings their best foot forward when tackling the subject matter. And it helps even more that every member is on full display here, from the beautifully constructed rhythm work, percussion work, to even the melodies that send chills down your spine in places that you didn't even know could feel that sensation. It's a spellbinding work of art that these guys have created, and I am looking forward to whatever they come up with next. We've officially arrived at the halfway point. Do you guys maybe need a break? Maybe grab a snack? Too bad! Number 5, Arch Enemies, Will to Power. I go my own way. Death metal has entered the fray. And what better band to put in this spot on the list than the beast that is Arch Enemy? MTM had a great year in 2017. Black Dahlia was explosive. Mors Principium Est was fast-paced, and another album that did make the list, but we're not quite there yet. Just sit tight on that one. But if I had to pick which album would make it on this list based on sheer power, it would have to be Arch Enemy. And all that is thanks to the guitars and vocals. Like I mentioned in my review, Elisa is a demon behind that microphone. And I do mean that in the best way possible. And let's not forget about Jeff Loomis's stellar, exquisite guitar work. I also saw them live back in November, and it was an explosive performance to watch. If I'm being completely honest, I actually couldn't decide whether I should put Arch Enemy here or Black Dahlia Murder. But at the end of the day, Black Dahlia Murder is always going to be explosive, but Arch Enemy is more powerful than they have ever been before. And you know what? My ears are better for it. So, there you go. Sorry, Black Dahlia. Arch Enemy just had a little more fierceness to it. How about we get heavier here and tune way down for some heavy, explosive post-hardcore. Number 4, Code Orange's Forever.
Oh my God, stop.
You know, me liking at least a little bit of speed in my taste of music, you'd have me befuddled when you would point out that I'm in love with the heavy, slower breakdown style of metalcore. Holy shit, the new Code Orange is so choice. It's sludgy and chaotic. It's dark and the real kind of edgy, not the kind of edgy that an album on the worst list attempted this year. Hint. Hint, I can't get enough of this album. It's very different from the stuff that I would normally hear, but the low, thunderous thuds throughout the album are what draw me toward this album. It is something that has to be heard to be believed. Yeah, it could be said that it's just standard dark heavy metalcore, but this is the kind that gets it right. Bloodclot, this ain't. And plus, for something of this style, they do take a couple left turns in here that I was not expecting. Clean vocals do appear on this album, and for the last track, they just turn off the distortion pedal altogether. Wow, I didn't think that I should do that. I feel like they just did that because they lost a bet. But guys, it's so good. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. If you must listen to anything metalcore, especially the heavy variety, Code Orange has you covered. They've been getting a lot of traction this year, and they earned it. They very much deserve it. Just whatever you do not listen to any of their stuff when trying to wake yourself up from a New Year's hangover. Trust me, that will mess you up badly. As for metalcore, that wasn't the best one I got to consider this year. I present to you my trump card. Number 3, Trivium's The Sin and the Sentence. That is only a fraction of what you're in for with this album. This is slowly becoming my favorite Trivium album to date. Not only are Matt's vocals fixed, not only are the solos and riffs the most technical they've ever been, they also have an octopus behind the kit. Trivium is at their heaviest, their strongest, and I cannot wait for what they come out with next. This is one of the first albums where I wasn't skeptical of what I was in for. After In Waves, I was a little skeptical with how Vengeance Falls would be able to top that. If you saw my review of that, you know how that turned out. You also know what I come up with when I drink too much. And after Matt blew his voice, I was skeptical of how Silence in the Snow would do, as, well, the screams were kind of part of it. But that turned out great. With this album, on the other hand, I somehow knew this album would kick so much ass. Just hit play and let the killer riffs take control, because your ass will be moving like a motherfucker in that pit. I actually saw them live with Arch Enemy back in November, and I can vouch for the amount of raw energy that these guys were giving off with songs that they played off of this album. Believe me, I still kind of feel it. So I swear, to all that is high and mighty, listen to the new Trivium. I don't care what your pre-composed notion of who these guys might be that you might have, listen to the new Trivium album. You will enjoy it, I promise you. But aside from that, we've got the top 2 now. We are here, close to the end. We have reached this year's golden albums. Listen up, you crazy motherfuckers, because number 2 is Wintersun's The Forest Seasons.
Beneath the market soil, the throw of the ace of spell.
Ooh, I just came. The Forest Seasons is such a masterpiece of beauty and horror that words cannot even begin to describe how much I love this album. 4 tracks of peace and chaos coming together as one. Each song representing the seasons that take control of the earth for every yearly cycle. And each song does such an amazing job at defining each season. No joke, when you pick up this album, do not, I repeat, do not look at the track listing. I'm not kidding. Do not look at the track listing. Just hit play and guess which season those songs are representing. Trust me, you will nail it. I did that my first listen and I got spot on. It's that good. All the instrumentation, the vocals, the background synths, orchestra, piano, make this listen worth the long runtime. And I do mean the long runtime. This album is 4 tracks long, but each song is roughly around the 12 to 15 minute mark. And while for some that might sound a little long and maybe not willing to go through it, each minute is used to its full potential. Not a single minute is wasted on this album. I cannot recommend this album enough to you. For the love of God, get this album. If you do not get this album, I will follow you everywhere you go carrying one of those old ass boom boxes playing this album until it is done. Don't think I won't do it. Okay, I won't do it, but it did get you to buy the album, didn't it? But with that said, let's get into the EPs this year. Because we had a lot of EPs come out this year that were all great. Actually, fun fact, there's no EPs that was worthy enough to be on the worst of the year list. So that's actually a really good thing. But as you guys know, we can only have one on the list. And so, the best EP of 2017 is... Wait, Mastodon? The fuck you doing here? I already put you on the list. Get out of here. They put on an EP this year too? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. So yeah, Mastodon is back. Holy hell, this EP was amazing. The tone and feel of this album is something that I didn't think would be a capable fit for Mastodon, but they make it work really well. This album is filled with songs that were in between their previous album and this year's listmaker. But the reason they didn't put those songs on either of these 2 albums is because they are softer tracks. Yeah, well, not all of them are acoustic ballad-esque type of things. They definitely aren't on the heavy side, at least in comparison to what they usually put out. Which might make some of you guys a little angry that I put a soft album on the best metal EP of the year list. And to that, fine, I agree with you on that one. You know what? My other picks would have been Chulu or Oranzi Pazuzu. Both of those albums were great on their own, but this album just accentuated with atmosphere building as well as the amount of times I hit the replay button. So yeah, these albums are great. They would have made the list as well. Mastodon just beat them to it. If you like either of these albums, seriously check them out regardless. Even if you don't like softer tracks, it's Mastodon. Come on, pick it up. It's good. But okay, you guys probably want something heavier, don't you? That's okay, that's fine. I got something for you. But I must warn you, this will be a little more traditional. And it beat out Wintersun's album by a fucking mile. So, without further ado, the number 1 best album of 2017, Cobra and the Lotuses, Prevail 1.
I'm vulnerable, bleeding uncontrollably.
Cobra Page. That's all I need to say. Listen to the album. The end. Okay, I'll go into more detail, fine. But really, I don't think I need to go into more detail. I believe I said plenty in my original review, though I did thankfully get corrected on one of the names. Thanks again, dude. Sorry I suck. This album is a beast with a demoness taming it. I can't remember a single time I came across one of their songs whenever I hit the shuffle button and ever skipped or didn't headbang to in public like an idiot. It has this way of getting you to mosh in the motherfucking pit without there actually being a pit. And FYI, don't listen to this album if you're in an airport. Trust me, it will not end well for you. But again, I've run out of stuff to say about an album that leaves you speechless. All I can really say is listen to this album and thank me later. And that precisely is why this is the best album of 2017. Because if an album can leave me running out of things to say before the year is even over, then that's how you know you've hit your mark. And Cobra and Company hit dead center. Can't wait for part 2, guys. But just because we had a lot of amazing albums to choose from this year, that doesn't mean it was all kick-ass heavy metal. Check out the other list to find out why this year also pissed me off, either by clicking the link in the description or clicking the YouTube card. But with that said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys liked the video, hit the like button. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the other list, and I'll see you guys in the mosh pit next time. Have a good night, everyone, and enjoy the New Year's hangover.